Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. She doesn't even need an introduction, everyone. I don't even know how many times she's been on, whether it's like the fourth or fifth time, but long time guest. And yeah, if you've been following this podcast for any matter of time, you've definitely seen her come on, and she's one of my favorites. We have Sophie back on the show, and yeah, she's on here to give us an update on what she's been up to and just talk all things health and fitness per usual. But most importantly, Sophie, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you. That was a really sweet intro. Thank you so much. Yes, I can't believe it's been, what was it, 2 years
Yeah,
ish?
I think it was like it's either November of last year or the November before that. I don't know if we did or November of 2022 or it was November of 2021. I don't have any idea, and honestly, like with all the amount that
Was
I
it before I went to Vegas for the Amateur Olympia?
it might have been after.
If it was, because that was December 22, I went there.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know. I'll have to double check because like I have like when you call people on Skype, like it has like when you last called them. So I'll have to double check and see what it was. But either way, it's been a while, and yeah, you're back on. And what have you been up to since we last had you on? I mean, even if it's been, 2 or 3 years, I mean, it's been quite, and like you said before we started recording that you haven't competed in what, 15 months or so. What's that been like to get back on that stage?
Right. So, a bit of a saga. So, yeah, surely if that was the case when we last spoke, so my last show was the Amateur Olympia in Las Vegas, December 22, which was epic. It was so dope. Met one of the girls from my team at the time. I was with that Team Elite Physique under Sam. So I met up with one of the girls and we went around the expo for the O and all that kind of stuff after the show, which was great. Um, and then the plan after that was to take a year off anyway, because I knew I'd been back to back since COVID struck. That was like my first ever prep started just before in the November. So yeah, I'd done till the December of 22 and was like, right, I need a bit of a break. Plan was to get my hormones back on track. So I ended my time with my coach at the time, who was amazing. And the plan was just to get things back to normal, get my fat levels up, get my hormones sorted, and just have an improvement season that I'd pretty much never had. The blood work was not happy. I had no sex hormones. I had no thyroid. My kidneys were very upset, and yeah, basically needed a bit of a revamp. So my now current coach, Vicky, had reached out to me wanting to help, and in her words, to fix me, because her background's she's a nurse, she's very health focused, she knows her shit, basically. Apologies. And she wanted to fix my hormones, sort my blood work out, and get me back on track. So last year was pretty much me throwing my dummy out the pram when she gave me a new meal plan that was very micronutrient, hormone balancing, you name it, cortisol lowering, everything. And I was told to not train, which my head did not compute. The change in like all at once of you're going to eat completely different to you ever have for the sake of your health. Tried to remind myself of that day by day. But the one hobby, the one passion that you have of going to the gym and wanting to compete, take it out your head. She was basically like, ignore bodybuilding for the next few months. I was like, how do you even compute that? But she was so right. And I did initially resist, but then transition occurred. We got on it, got it sorted. And within 6 weeks, my bloods were like 90% where they should be. It was crazy.
How do you mentally deal with when you first get those bloods back? Because I'm one of those people where if I got that back, I would just be like freaking out, like, oh my God, they're not that good. How did you mentally just get through it without being like, oh my God, this is bad?
I did have that moment. I was told the wording was that I'm clinically infertile. That was hard to digest. The kidney thing, I've had renal appointments at the hospital and stuff since, and they're still now they're still questioning if I've got chronic kidney disease, and it's just all like, yo, what's happening? But the positive thing is it's reversible. So that's what Vicky tried to explain to me initially. Like, even the infertility side of stuff, hormone related, we can resolve that. The thyroid got resolved, and then the kidney stuff, in all fairness, when they did loads of examinations and ultrasounds and tests and whatever, I've got one kidney that's apparently just never been the right size that it should be, and that's probably a birth defect. So we found that out. But because I only started taking creatine like 7 months ago, maybe for the first time. They were like, we don't know if the decline in your function has always been that way or not. And apparently the ones I had done like 10 years ago were still shit. So it's like, it's just got worse. So in August, we're going to do this little trial of like, 72 hours, no training, no creatine, baseline, and then do your bloods.
It took you this long to try creatine? I was doing creatine like when I was in high school.
I think I remember like dabbling like for maybe like 2 weeks or something years back when my protein was first out. But I think it was from like freebie sachets or something.
And that was even back when people like thought that like creatine was like a steroid or something like that. So like, oh, you're on steroids. I was like, it literally is not. It's just
Oh, I
something that,
know.
like the people that
You
thought
make
that.
it, guys.
Oh my god, it was so hilarious when I hear people be like, oh, so you're on steroids. I was like, it is literally not even anywhere.
Imagine if it was that cheap. Like,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's like, dude, if you could get that for just the amount of scoops that you can get out of that, and just you got to get the right flavor too. I got the chocolate flavor, which is always nice, but then I tried like a birthday cake flavor one time, and that was just, ugh, that was
You
just.
have flavored creatine?
I I used to when I was doing creatine. I haven't done creatine probably like 5 or 6 years, but like I had all the flavors too, and then there was like a green apple flavor that you could have, and then yeah, there's so many different flavors that you could try. But yeah, those were. I'll just stick with the double chocolate one when I was doing it. It tastes
That
honestly just like
sounds
chocolate milk.
amazing.
If you mix a little bit of milk in it, it tastes almost like chocolate milk. You just got to have like a cup, like a tiny cup of milk. If you put into it, then it does
I
that.
love.
But what was that like getting back on a prep and getting back to training after taking such a amount of time off?
Yeah, I mean the training element, I don't think I had to fully rest for too long. It might have been like 2 or 3 weeks of not going to the gym. But I was allowed to go for walks, and she got me doing that like, oh my gosh, what's the right term? Parasympathetic beta oxidation walks where you do like special breathing stuff. And yeah, it helped my cortisol chill, and I was on like ashwagandha for a little bit and stuff just to bring all my stress levels back down. And there'd been a lot of things happening behind the scenes that she knew about that I needed to deal with as well. So that was great, and everything leveled out. But taking that time away, I mean, wow, it reinstilled my gratitude for a hell of a lot. But then getting back into when she finally was like, we're good now. What do you want to do? I was like, we work towards stepping back on stage, please. So that was say, I think we started working together in like the May of last year. No, April maybe, March, April, guessing. And then by like the June or July, it was like, right, we're looking good. What do you want to do? And I was thinking, okay, let's try something different.
How is your blood pressure now at like 200 over 120? Just hearing about all the stuff that you've gone through, like how did you manage to stay somewhat calm?
My, well, I had another issue with my freaking blood pressure. Um, the start of last year, I was having these weird, like, what did they call them? Like, like mini seizure things. I'd have like fainting episodes and then like a mini partial seizure. Partial seizure, that was it. And it was because they weren't sure if it was my low blood pressure, because I'm like 100 over 60 normally,
Wow.
or if it's my low heart rate, because my resting heart rate at the time was like 35 to 38. It's now about 45. It's not bad. But yeah, that was another issue. Mate, have you ever heard of a table tilt test?
No.
Oh my God, if anyone ever tells you need to have one done, don't do it. So they used it to check if it was the low blood pressure or the low heart rate causing me to faint. So what they do is they get this is like this table, and it's all in the hospital. You go in, and there were 3 healthcare professionals in there. And I was like, okay, normally you go in and there's like one, maybe sometimes someone's observing, but 3, all right, what's going on here? And you just got this table, so you lay down this table, and they strap you in, like one across your arms, one across your legs, or maybe one across your knees as well, or something. And then they'll flip you up, so you're like upright. So you're like strapped in like this. And the idea is the table tilt is that you're on the table. They lower you back, and then they'll slowly like bring you up to see if this reaction happens, and you end up having a moment. The weirdest thing was they did it. I came up right, and as I was coming up right, I was like, okay, things are still feeling all right. And they were like, yeah, like everything's stable. They were like, oh, your blood pressure's fine. And I was like, what's fine? And they were like, about 120/80. It's like standard. I was like, that's high for me. I'm anxious. And then this other girl came in and she was like, oh, you're not responding how we wanted you to. So we're going to give you, it's basically a spray that they use. It's called GTN spray. I don't know if you guys have it. For angina. Yeah. So it'll expand your blood vessels. And yeah, they were like, oh, because you're not having the response we were hoping for, I'm going to give you this. And I was like, huh? And they were like, it's called GTN spray. I was like, I know what it is. I don't want it. They're like, oh, we need to induce a seizure. I was like, okay, did not sign up for that bit, but they gave me it. And she was like, oh, within about 5 minutes, you'll feel something. So now there was like 4 of them just staring at me. And I just remember this guy being like, okay, just keep breathing. And I was thinking, what does he know? He's looking at my blood pressure. My blood pressure's dropped. I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden I remember thinking, I can't see very well. And just like went. So yeah, that stuff worked. Don't play with that.
Yeah, I can guarantee you from now on I will never do that, because anytime they like want to induce one, but like I'm one of those guys where don't tell me where my blood pressure's at, because that's only going to make it worse. It's like if I see what my blood pressure's at, and if I see it's maybe like at a 140 or something like that, if I'm anxious, then I'm like, okay, yeah, that it's going to get even worse and worse. So it's like, if you don't tell me it, it's like if you get injured and then you're like, if you don't see the cut or the bruise, it's not as bad.
For real.
Until
Yeah, and then you look at it, it's like, oh my God, that hurts.
Yeah. But hey, if you want something that might not make you, sleep so well at night, is that I was looking up for my history podcast that I do. Apparently the CIA in the 1970s developed a gun and a bullet that was meant to induce a heart attack in someone. So what the bullet does is that they would shoot you with it, and all the bullet would do, it would dissolve immediately as soon as it got into your skin. So it would just leave like a tiny red hole where you were. And it within about like 15 seconds, it would induce a fatal heart attack for the person. That's what the CIA used to use. So it's like, that's scarier than any other weapon, honestly, that I could ever think of, other than like maybe like a nuclear bomb or something like that. But like if they have a gun where and this was in the 70s, where they could just shoot you from a long distance and tag you in something, and then you just feel like a little pinch, and then you have a fatal heart attack 15 seconds later.
And so the point of entry is just a red mark, but then there'd be no shrapnel, there'd be no.
So medically, they'll just say, "Oh, you just had a heart attack." And they came out and they made the knowledge public in the 70s. So it's like, if they made that knowledge public, then I don't even know what they have behind the scenes then that does that. So, sleep well tonight, everyone, when you're thinking about that. That there could just be someone, you could just feel a ping every once in a while, and then, nope, just drop dead, after that. But I mean, being that you've been through so much, what was that moment like when you finally got to step on this stage this last weekend?
Oh, mate, it was so cool. It was good. It's been interesting as well, because this prep's been, I'm sorry to say, it's been a breeze, man. Like, it's
knock on wood.
Grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful that it's been nice. It's been steady. It's been easy. Like, it was long. Granted, it was the longest prep I've done because it was 21 weeks. Started on the 16th of December, I think. Different federation called NABA. I don't know if you guys have heard of NABA. Yeah, like OG federation. So slightly different in terms of routine, because it's quarter turns instead of like the front and back, or front and side. Wait, front and side. Oh my gosh, front and back like we do for, because NPC for you guys. But yeah, it was different, and it was nice, and it wasn't the biggest show, but that for me was quite nice as well. It just meant that I felt like I could just keep my nerves kind of calm, brush the dust off, do my routine. I actually slowed down with it. I could tell I felt a lot more confident. I've been practicing my walk a hell of a lot, which still needs work. Feedback was very positive about my physique, presentation wise. My walk, I need to stop looking at the freaking floor. Like, smile and wave, people. But yeah, it felt good. It felt nice to be back up there, and despite being like 4+ pounds than previously, I was okay with it. My head was all right with it, because you know what it's like. We stick to scale weight sometimes and forget about anything else. But yeah, very, very pleasant.
I can still see you still have a little bit of the tan on you. It's still a little percent. How long until it like completely comes off?
I will admit, whilst I've been showering, I've been purposefully not scrubbing and trying to like dab. Like, face obviously goes straight away, but yeah, I'm trying to keep it on for the weekend as much as possible, because there's an expo this weekend, Fit Expo, up in Manchester. So that should be nice, because I get to work the bodybuilding show on the Saturday, being Trophy Sophie, giving out the medals and the trophies for that. It's always epic. And then the Sunday, I get to work with the clothing brand that I represent locally, self-made clothing apparel. So the fam for them are epic, and yeah, can't wait to see everybody.
Well, speaking on something like that, I see that you also do ring girl stuff for like
Yeah,
boxing and other events. How did that come to be?
that's so true. That started with a charity vibe. So literally, the pub down the road. There's a group of local guys who are very passionate about promoting support for mental health in our community. And one of the ways of doing it, similar to, we have like ultra white collar boxing where they do charity events and stuff. Similar to that, so they offered the training, and then at the end of it, you put together a fight show. So I did the ring girl for that, and off the back of it, I've had some further opportunities. So anywhere and everywhere that I want to be offered to do that, I'm lapping it up. It's so much fun.
Is there a technique to it?
Oh my gosh, I hope not. I think a timing's a good one. Like, you need to time it right so that you know that when the bell dings, you're in. Because if you take the piss getting around the ring, before you know it, they're back on. Like, no dawdling, no messing around.
Yeah, I've always just been boxing has been a sport that, I've always been truly fascinated by. But would you say that there's been an area that you think that you've improved on in your physique, even though you did take an amount, like a extended amount of time off?
I would like to think that my delts have improved from looking at my photos. I think I've gained a little bit of at least shape to them, if it's not too much mass. um, Glutes wise, I'd like to think that the top, like upper outer. Hopefully that's helped as well. But yeah, just overall, I don't look as tired as I did before from the amount of stress that was given off.
Where does that strength come from for you to be able to push through all this? Because if I were to talk to 100 people, I mean, I might get 2 or 3 that might be able to do that mentally. Like, where does this strength come from for you to push through even with all this stuff that's been happening to you?
Oh man, it's a nice question, and I think I wanna make the most of everything, of every day, of every opportunity, and anything that can make me stronger as a person, more resilient. I'm game. Like, we don't grow unless we're out of our comfort zone. Do you know the name Derek Redmond, an Olympian from the 90s?
It sounds familiar, but not specifically.
Olympic. He's not an Olympian as in bodybuilder, Olympics as in like runner, relay, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, British athlete. He did a speech that I went to last year at our like work NHS Trust Forum, and I remember him saying how important it is to step outside and, in his words, to expand your comfort zone. So not to just temporarily be like, oh, I'm over the edge, but to be like, no, just make it bigger, make your comfort zone wider so that you feel able to do whatever challenge awaits. Like, that's always stuck with me. I think it's really resonated.
I'm more of an Eddie the Eagle guy myself.
Oh, oh wait, I need to see that film. I need to
I
see that.
just saw it only like a couple of weeks ago. It took me forever to see it, but
Really?
then I saw,
Rate it?
yeah, I thought it's good. Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, it's got the guy that played Billy or Elton John in that biopic. So Taron, whatever
Yeah,
his name is, he's really good. He's a
I can't
good
remember his
actor. So,
name.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, it's just so inspiring just to see that you've gone through all this. Please tell me that your cardio wasn't as much now, knowing how how messed up your bloods were. Please tell me you weren't doing as much cardio.
No, treadmill walks, incline walks, like 6%, 3.6 miles an hour. The most it got up to is like 40 minutes 6 times a week. But for me, it's a walk. Like, it's just time. And I would sit there doing emails and all sorts, like, yeah, firing it off. But no, thankfully, nothing drastic at all. And obviously, it tapered off for the last little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, and then I do mine. I probably average like 4 miles an hour just on my walks that I do, just because it's like I'll walk for like an hour and 20 minutes and get my 10,000 steps in when I'm not, and I'll do like probably like 4 or 5,000 other steps and other things. But I also walk outside, which is dangerous, especially at this time of year, because I've ran into turkeys, I've ran into
Oh,
deer, I've ran into owls, I've ran into
turkeys
raccoons.
on the road.
Well, so I live close to, like, it's not like a nature park, but it's like it's like a
Oh, like a
national
turkey
park
farm.
kind of thing where it's like it's protected, so like you can't build houses there, you can't do all that stuff. So you walk through it, and there are probably 100 or so wild turkeys that just roam. And again, it's like, it's a fairly large area. Like if we were to walk all the way around it, it's probably about 4 or 5 miles just to walk all the way around it. So I do about halfway and then I go back. But yeah, you run into deer, you run into raccoons, you run into all kinds of fox, coyotes, everything's out there. Yep, I do it. Well, we can hear, I mean, my dog goes crazy at night because we leave the windows open and you can hear foxes calling at night sometimes.
Oh, bless.
And then my dog just absolutely loses her mind because yeah. And then, we also have like the rings that you can see footage from, and it's, almost every night we'll see either like a raccoon or a coyote or a fox just running across the driveway or something. So there was one, it was funny, where we had the ring footage of it where there was a raccoon that was rummaging like close to our driveway, and then literally it showed me getting back from my walk at like 10:30 at night, like literally 2 minutes after that thing left. So I almost ran into it. But yeah, it's the crazy stuff that you run into up here. And I mean, has this added to your appreciation of just this lifestyle, knowing that like what you've been through, and does it add an extra motivation to you as well when it comes to your training, just knowing that like, hey, if I'm able to get through what I've gotten through this last like year and a half or 2 years, I can really get through anything?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I've been through very little. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have had a hell of a lot to deal with, and I feel very blessed that what I've dealt with is in. I know it's not a competition, but it's minimal. It's been manageable and reversible and all that kind of good stuff. So I just feel very, very blessed, very, very grateful that I've got people around me that want to help, that I've got people around me that know how to help, like what to do, and that I've listened as well. I guess I'm grateful that I've actually not been stubborn about something and taken that help on board, because half the time when we are struggling with anything, physical, mental, you name it, financial, a lot of the time as well, we don't want to ask for that, or we don't even want to accept that help. So it doesn't make us any less of a person to do anything like that. Like, yeah, I'm grateful for all the support I've had, and yeah, let's see what else the future's got to hold.
Well, without bashing your old coach, what do you enjoy most about this new coach and sort of changing things up?
Oh right, yeah, because Sam was
Yeah.
incredible. Like, she wasn't to know what my bloods were saying. So what do I love about Vicky? Her energy is dope. I'm obviously in the blessed state of Vicky being in the UK. So her coaching is Titan Coaching. She's based up in a place called Newcastle under Lyme, which is actually not Newcastle. Don't ask. Yeah, she's not too far away. She came to the show at the weekend. She even came to the Airbnb place the night before to see me, which was lovely. And yeah, just having her around. Her style's a little different. I think you can definitely tell she's got a nursey background, because like, you'll do the check-in form, which I'm used to, but then it's on feedback. She might even, before even giving feedback, she'll sometimes just start with like, so how are you actually feeling? And like, I'll have put little things in the check-in form, but maybe not enough detail. So she'll ask about like my bowel movements and if I get any energy dips and all that kind of stuff. And she's on it. Like, yeah, she asks about everything.
Well, speaking about the Airbnbs, knowing that you do stay in them when you're like just about to step on stage, what kind of reactions do you get from other people if they ever see you, like especially as you're at your show lean stage?
That's a good point. However, I'm very pedantic about the accommodation, and it tends to not be anything communal or hotel vibe. I want the self catering. I had a house. I had a 3-bedroom house, just because I wanted a kitchen that was close by, and all. It wasn't cheap, but it was reasonable and it was nice. So the only time I ever actually get some interesting questions is when I go for tanning, because I'll rock up in like, they call it a bronzy. It's like a onesie suit, with slippers, and often have my hair up in curlers, with a net. And there's countless photos in the past of me having my makeup done by Danielle Spencer, and she's like, every time she's like, "Why do you come to me when you've got a stupid hairnet on?" Because she'll try and take photos afterwards of like her beautiful makeup and then my hair like in this net. So that must look really random, especially when I come back down and it's like they either tan your face the night before or the morning of. So it depends if you've got like a varnished body and like a white ghostly face or not. Crazy, man.
What did they say, if you want to get into it, what did they say caused such the low bloods? Was it just the amount of cardio or just the lack of food? Was there like a specific reason that they found, or was it just a combination of a lot of things?
They didn't really find out in essence, but putting together the information, knowing what I'd been doing for the last few years, it would make sense, unfortunately, that I wasn't having enough nutrients in my diet. I chose, even though I was provided at the time with like options on my meal plan, I was very regimented, and it was be like the same carb source, the same protein source, the same veg, the same fruit. It just wasn't enough variety, and over time, deficiencies kick in. I wasn't supplementing enough. There were various other elements that I wasn't helping for, like my thyroid and things like that. So it was just a lack of knowledge, and doing it for so long in a deficit and stressing my body out in the way that I was to step on stage, unfortunately took its toll internally. I'm thankful I found out when I did.
I'm just impressed on how adaptable the human body can be, where like all these things that you said like you had, yeah, they're reversible. So like you wouldn't normally expect that, where it's like, yeah, you can totally reverse this. It just shows how neat the human body is. And I mean, this whole sport is just basically just showing how the human body can adapt and, react to things. But what are your plans for the rest of the year? Are you gonna plan on doing some more shows, or where are you at right now, do you think?
Yeah, so off the back of the last show, I got an invite to what they call the British Finals, which is in less than 3 weeks now. So I'll be doing that. And after that, my plan is I am going to pop down to London to do one of the NPC shows in the middle of June, because I've decided to do the Amateur Olympia in Portugal afterwards. So that will round it off, spend a bit of time in the sun, and yeah, hopefully conclude the 24 season.
So how, like you mentioned before, so how much different is the NABA posing with the NPC? Is it just that you do the quarter turns instead, or is there any other differences really in the posing aspect?
Thankfully, that's mainly it. So like NPC wise, obviously you do your front pose, which is in NABA, that's a side. Yeah, front and back for NPC, and then NABA's version is like your front pose is like both arms out for that X shape, and then you'll do to the right, side, back, other side, and back again. So it's not drastic. And for the guys, I'm guessing it's all the same as normal, but it just meant my routine needed to be refreshed a little bit. And I'd never liked my physique in the other side or that pose. So to do that as well was a bit of a transition, I think.
Was there ever a thought process in you that like, hey, maybe I'm done competing, or were you always saying to yourself like, no, I'm gonna compete again?
I didn't feel done. I had it in my head that I needed at least one show where there was not like anything too dramatic that had happened or kicked off or whatever. And there was a few times with other shows when sadly that had happened, and I just felt like it overshadowed it. So I was like, you know what? Can we just have one that's like smooth sailing and whatever the outcome kind of thing? And yeah, it was I knew at the time I wasn't clocked out, not hanging up the heels just yet.
What do you do for sleep? Because as you can tell before, like I told you before, like I have never been a good sleeper regardless of what I do. So I am willing to take any advice.
Routine is very important. So a lot of structure. Like I know you work long hours sometimes, don't you, as well? Like you'll be up at silly times, right? Is that still the case?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm similar, but in terms of like I'll be getting up at like say 4:30. Tomorrow I get up at 5, so it's not quite as dramatic. But sometimes the earliest is like normally the earliest is 4, but that's only because I would choose to do that to eat, prep my food, go to the gym, do weights, then cardio, then go to work for 9. So it's my choice to do that then after work. It means by like 8, I'm exhausted, ready for sleep. So structure routine definitely, and sleep hygiene. No, no screens in bed, no TV upstairs. Like if I am watching TV, it'd be downstairs. I'll make sure the light's quite dim. I won't have like my phone in my face close to going to bed. Anything that's too stimulating needs to just not pop up.
Well, and I realize that even if you have notifications turned off, you'll have some of those idiots who, because you guys do get up around like the 4 or 5 o'clock and thing, and then there's I mean, I go to bed much earlier than I used to. It used to be like 3 a.m., but now it's like probably like midnight or sometimes even like 11:30. Just because I get off work at around like 10 o'clock, and I'm even trying to change that because I've seen so many studies that prove that like if you work the night shift, that's like setting you up for health problems later on in life just because the body's not
Yeah,
used to that. So I'm trying to slowly get off that myself. But yeah,
good.
sleep with me, yeah, too. It's just a hit or miss type of thing, and it really just it does happen. And when we do have you on in a year, because we're not going to wait another
Yeah.
2 years to have you on, where'd you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where'd you like to just be at in your overall life?
Oh, so what will I be? So 2025. Well, I turned 34 at the end of this year.
I turned
Uh,
30 in July, by the way.
dirty 30. Have you got any plans?
No, yeah, I don't even know what I'm gonna think because I've heard people say that like, yeah, your 30s are so much better than your 20s. So I'm not dreading it, but it's also at the same point, it's like, God, I feel old.
Life is what you make it, man. Don't worry about that number. So this time next year, I think it would be sensible after this season to find out if I can be fertile. So, out of pure curiosity, let's have some time away from stage, get some extra fat on me, and hopefully build some extra tissue and try and get my bloods even better and see what happens.
So if someone does have like really bad blood work, is there like stuff in general that they could do? Because obviously it differs from person to person, but is there like stuff in general that people could look into like doing that would just help overall maybe increase their bloods and make them a little bit better?
Nutrition first. Nutrition, absolutely, in terms of the quality of the food content for real, like proper sources of food. Let's just go clean as. Supplementation where appropriate, definitely. Um, and get someone that knows what they're talking about. Like if you don't know, seek help, find out. And then a lot of people might need a bit of a revamp in their lifestyle as well. Drink, drugs, rock and roll vibe, and anything to lower that stress for us, whether that's literal, like psychological, social stress, or mechanical stress, CNS stress, whatever you need a rest from, take it.
Yeah. Well, and before we wrap things up, I mean, everyone that I've talked to, especially in the States, who's familiar with bodybuilding in England knows how different, some of the divisions are and how there's just so many more divisions. Have the divisions been increasing as the years have gone on, or like the different federations, or has it stayed somewhat the same? Because like, it's funny how like here in the States, it really is just the NPC and that's really it. But then you go to the UK and even Australia and they have like 4 or 5 different federations.
Yeah, you're right. And I have noticed a few in the last, definitely post COVID. I feel like there's a few more, unless they're just more known now. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely been a few that have popped up over the years. And some are quite similar with themselves. Like there's a few that have adopted like the NABA style poses, or some with like a few little tweaks. Because NABA in Europe is actually different to NABA here as well. The posing is a little bit different. Like we can get away with the NPC style for the sides, whereas in Europe they do it how we have a federation called PCA. So it's instead of like your front leg being straight, it's more like hips like tilted up. It's a bit different. But yeah, there's a few that have come out of the woodwork. So I think it's nice. It gives people lots of options, but I guess it can draw away as well from
You think they
others.
would just make it universal for everyone, so like just the posing and everything, just so that there wouldn't be any distinctions, but that just never really seems to be the case. But again, Sophie, I really appreciate having you on and talking to us. It's always a
Yeah.
delight to talk to you. And would you plan on coming to the States anytime soon? Are you coming to Vegas again sometime soon, or any plans?
Oh, I'd love to. In fact, randomly, the girl I mentioned from when I was at the Amateur O, Brittany, she lives in Oregon, I believe, Portland, Oregon, I think. She just got married, but she's hoping, fingers crossed, to visit here in September. So, because I said at the start of the year I don't think I can afford it, I'm back on stage again. So she offered to come here. So at the minute, not this year. I would love to say it be an option in the next couple of years. I would be so stoked.
I will say, don't go to Oregon because you think it rains a lot in the UK. Just wait till you go to
Oh,
Oregon. Good God.
good tip.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
it is your kind of weather, I guess, so you would be used to it. So I think, like, honestly, it might be a, match made in heaven. But yeah, that's
Not for a holiday. You don't be like, right, where do I want to go? So it's raining.
well, yeah, it's about they got Seattle, you got Washington and Oregon, Seattle and Portland are like some of the rainiest cities. So there is that.
Good to
But
know.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, everyone, go and check out Sophie's Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below. Barbie, where you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies. But again, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.